All right, so if we have this problem, the left-hand side, though, can be simplified. The first thing I need to do is, right, parentheses. And since I can't do what's in parentheses, the way I do parentheses is distributive properties. So I do 4 times 2b, which is 8b. And I do 4 times negative 6, which is negative 24. Then I have that plus 11. Now, is the left-hand side simplified? No, I still have like terms. So negative 24 and positive 11 makes negative 13. So I have 8b minus 13. And on the other side, I have, okay, at this point, even if you didn't solve any further, if you just look at this, 8 times some number minus 13 equals 8 times some number minus 13. It does not matter what number you pick. This right here is exactly this right here, which means when are those two things going to be equal? All the time. Obviously, something is always going to be equal to itself, okay? Now, if you don't happen to notice, and a lot of times what they'll do is they'll arrange it so that when you simplify, you end up with like negative 13 plus 8b, and so it's not as obvious. Like this, you can see, like, oh, hey, that's the exact same thing. So obviously, any number will work in that situation. If I rearrange it, it's still the exact same thing, but you might not notice it as easily because they don't look the same, because this one is the constant plus, the negative constant plus the variable, whereas this one is the variable minus the constant, right? So, Richie, you need to sit up. We're doing math here. All right, so those two sides are equal, but if you don't see that, and you go on to the next step, once each side is simplified, your next step is group your variables on the same side, right? So I'm going to get rid of the 8b over here by subtracting it because it's positive, right? Which means I also subtract 8b on this side. But here, this is where the weird thing happens because 8b on this side cancels, but this time the 8b on this side also cancels. So you're left with the statement, negative 13 equals negative 13. Which then you ask yourself the question, when does negative 13 equal negative 13? Always, right? It does not matter what b is. Negative 13 will always equal negative 13. 8 times b minus 13 will always equal 8 times b minus 13. Because 8b equals 8b. Okay? So, when you come up with a statement like this, then that tells you that all numbers, it doesn't matter whether you put in a decimal number, a fraction number, a negative number, a positive number, 0, any value you put in for b will work. Now, this one you can't check quite the same way as you check others, but you can pick, really, the way to check this is you could pick 2 different numbers, like try it with, b equals 0, try it with b equals 1, and you'll find that it comes out the same. So let's actually look at that. Let's say we do a check with it. And since it's any number, that means we can really pick any number we want. So I have, the original equation was 4 times 2b minus 6 plus 11 equals 8b minus 13. Ooh, that doesn't show up very good on this background. Let me switch my background real quick. There we go. That's better, easier to see. All right, so there's my original equation. We can let b be anything. If we're correct and the solution is really all numbers, that means pick a number. Any number you want, any of them will work. So I would pick a small number, an easy number to work with. So Delson?
I was going to pick 27 minimum.
You can do 27, but once again, for sake of convenience here, Megan.
2.
Okay, we'll pick 2. So if I use 2, I have 4 times 2 times 2 minus 6 plus 11 should equal 8 times 2 minus 13. Now, another thing that is good to know, since you have scientific calculators, what will a scientific calculator do for you? It will use order of operations. You can quite literally type in 4, the parentheses, 2 times 2 minus 6, close parentheses, plus 11, and hit equals, and it will tell you what this side works out to be. Now, you can also work it out by hand if you would like, making sure you follow order of operations. So 4 times negative 2 plus 11, which gives me negative 8 plus 11, which gives me positive 3. And then on the other side, we have 16 minus 13, and 16 minus 13 is 3. So this side's 3, this side's 3. The two sides do, in fact, come out to be equal. Now, that's just one number. If I really wanted to make sure I was right, I could plug in another number.
0.
0, okay. So let's do the exact same thing, but this time let's do it for 0. So I'm just going to erase my old one. We know it works for 2. So now let's try for 0. So I have 4. Oops. 4 times 2 times 0 minus 6 plus 11 should equal 8 times 0 minus 13. So on this side I have 2 times 0 is 0 minus 6 plus 11. And on this side, 8 times 0 is 0 minus 13. Over here I have 4 times negative 6 plus 11. 0 minus 13 is negative 13. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Negative 24 plus 11 is negative 13. So once again, the two sides come out equal. So you can see both 0 worked and 2 worked, which really means any number will work. All equations, all variable equations have either one solution, no solutions, or an infinite amount of solutions. Those are the only possibilities with equations with one variable. So this is one that has infinitely many solutions. Any number will work. Yes?
So everybody get number 12 right?
No, because it's not x equals 7 works. You have to understand the only answer is because it says find the solution. Well, the solution isn't 7. The solution isn't 2. The solution isn't 0. The solution is all numbers.
But it was one of the numbers.
Yeah, but the question isn't find a solution. It's find the solution. And the solution is that every single number is a solution. Okay? It's like one of those tests where it says mark all that apply. You have to know here that the solution is every single number, not just a specific number. But yes, any number you find is a solution. If you check your answer, it will work. The problem is, though, you have to understand that this one, all numbers are a solution. Okay. All right, yes. Paris, stand up. Are you raising your hand? Number 11. Okay, so number 11, we have 2 times 6x plus 1. Oops. Okay, cooperate thing. All right. Equals 4 times x minus 5 minus 2. All right. Now this is one that before you start solve, you're going to have to simplify on both sides. Okay, neither side is already simplified. Okay, So, on the left-hand side, I have to do distributive property. James, you need to put the book away right now. So on the left-hand side, we'll do distributive property, which gives us 12x plus 2. On the right-hand side, we have 4x minus 20 minus 2. Now, on the right, we can still simplify more. Those are like terms. Negative 20 and negative 2 make negative 22, so minus 22. So I get 12x plus 2 equals 4x minus 22. And then from here, I'm going to get my variables on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 4x. So I get 8x plus 2 on this side equals, don't lose your negative there. Remember, if it's minus 22, then when you get rid of the x, you have negative 22. Then I have to subtract 2. Is that what you did? Mm-hmm. And so I get 8x equals, and then negative 22 and negative 2 make negative 24. And then if we divide by 8, we get x equals negative 3. Yes?
Is it okay to do the 2 first and then just go and then subtract x? 'Cause I got the same.
Yeah, if you subtract 2 from both sides and then move your x over, it's the same exact thing. The only reason that I do the variables together first is just because in my head it's like, we're not going to be able to solve the equation until we have one variable. So my thought is, let's get our variables together first and then worry about the rest. But if you do it in the opposite order, you're going to get the same answer. So yeah, that's fine. Just make sure, guys, that you're paying attention to what side of the equation things are on. One thing that I saw a lot on the quizzes and that I see a lot on the test on this unit is students that forget what side of the equal sign things are on. For instance, let's say, let's take this. Let's say we take this, and then what ends up happening is we get this expression right here, and they'll do minus 4x, which gives us 8x, and then plus 2 equals negative 22, and then they'll go plus 22, and then they'll go 8x equals 24. I see this a lot, okay? Be really aware of where your equal sign is. If I add 22, then now you can do that. But you need to understand that if I add 22, where is that 24? It's on the left-hand side of the equation, right? If you want to add 22, that's fine. But you need to understand that it's not 8x equals 24. It is 8x plus 24 equals 0. And then from there, it's a two-step equation. You're going to have to subtract 24 from both sides and then solve from there. So be super aware of where your equal sign is. Otherwise, you are going to mess yourself up big time. Always be aware of where your equal sign is. All right, so any other questions? Kyle? Number 5. All right, so number 5 we have... Oops, that's an ugly 3. 3 times, in parentheses, f plus 2 plus 9 equals 13 plus 5f. Distributive property gives us 3f plus 6 plus 9 equals 13 plus 5f. I still can simplify over here. So I'm going to make that 3f plus 15 equals 13 plus 5f. My next step, I prefer to get my variables together first, so I would subtract 5f, which means on the right-hand side, my f term is gone, and I'm left with just 13. And on my left-hand side, 3f minus 5f gives me negative 2f plus 15. So now I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides, which means on the left-hand side I'm left with negative 2f, and on the right, 13 minus 15 is negative 2. And then my last step is to divide by negative 2, and I get f equals positive 1. And like I said, really easy to do a check. If you've got a scientific calculator, all you have to do is put 3 parentheses, f is 1, so 1 plus 2, close parentheses, plus 9, see what that equals, and then do 13 plus 5 times 1, see what that equals. If they come out equal, then you're good. If they don't come out equal, then that tells you, hey, I need to go back and look at my work and see where I made a mistake. All right, last thing that I want to talk about, number 13, which I did not assign to you, but is on your skills practice, is the other kind of unusual problem. We have, so this is 13. It is 6 plus 6 times 2t minus 1 equals 3 plus 12t. Oops. T. I accidentally advanced the next slide. All right, so first step, we need to simplify what's on the left. What's on the right's already simplified, so distributive property gives us 6 plus 12t, and then 6 times negative 1 is negative, or minus 6, equals 3 plus 12t. Then we combine like terms. 6 and negative 6 gives us 0. So I get 12t equals 3 plus 12t. Now, if we get our variables onto the same side, we do minus 12t, and then we again have that unusual situation where I cancel this out because that's what I intended to do, but I also end up canceling that out. Not intentionally, that's just, it's the same amount of variable. So I end up with 0 equals 3. Now this is the opposite of the other problems though, because when does 0 equal 3? Never, okay? This has no solution. I don't care what number you pick. I don't care if you use a fraction, a decimal, a negative number, an irrational number, an imaginary number, which you'll get to learn about later. Okay? It does not matter. There is absolutely no number in existence that will make this statement true. And the reason you can see, if you look at this simplified expression we have right here, 12t equals 3 plus 12t. Well, whatever t is, 12t is going to be equal to 12t, because that's itself, right? And if I have a number, and I have that exact same number plus 3, they can't be equal. Because if you add 3 to something, it's going to make it 3 units bigger. So if you have a number, and you have that same number, and you add 3 to one of them and not the other, they're no longer going to be equal. This statement can never, ever, ever be true. So the answer to that is what we call the null set, which means there are no numbers that belong to the solution. In other words, there is no solution. Okay? So you can write your answer for this as this little symbol, which means the null set, or you can write no solution. Either way, just so you understand that there's absolutely no number that will make this work. Kyle, I'm about to take that away from you, and you're not going to get it back. All right. So